Everyone thinks World War II greatest victories were won by generals and armies. They're wrong. In April 1943, the Allies faced a problem that no amount of firepower could solve. They were about to invade Sicily, a heavily fortified Nazi stronghold, and Hitler knew it was coming. Our intelligence teams had cracked German communications, so we knew the enemy was reading our every move. The Germans expected us in Sicily. We had to convince them to look somewhere else entirely. And to do it, we'd need a corpse. March 1943, British Naval Intelligence was desperate. The man leading the operation was Lieutenant Commander Ewen Montagu, a lawyer turned spymaster with a peculiar mind for deception. I've read the declassified briefs myself. Montagu understood something most officers didn't. The best lie isn't elaborate. It's personal, it's human, it's something the enemy wants to believe. They needed a body, not just any body. A British Royal Marines officer, dead for weeks, with documents in his pockets that would point German high command toward Greece instead of Sicily. In late April, a decomposed corpse washed ashore near Glyndwr, Spain, a man who died of pneumonia days earlier. Montagu's team had their vessel. They named him William Martin. They gave him a uniform, a Royal Marines identity card, a wallet with photographs of a fiancée named Pam, all fabricated with meticulous care. But here's what mattered: the letters in his briefcase. Fake dispatches from Lord Mountbatten to General Alexander discussing an invasion of Greece and Sardinia. The bait was set. April 30th, 1943. The body was dumped into the Mediterranean off the Spanish coast with a parachute attached, the cover story being that he died in a plane crash. Spanish fishermen found him within hours. Now came the excruciating wait. Montagu and his team didn't know if the Germans would take the bait. They couldn't know, not yet. The Spanish authorities, officially neutral but sympathetic to the Nazis, recovered the briefcase. They opened it. They photographed the documents. And within days, those photographs reached German intelligence in Berlin. The trap was closing, but no one in the Allied command knew if it had worked. They were operating blind. May 1943, Hitler received the intelligence, and he believed it completely. The Führer was convinced the Allies were coming to Greece. He ordered German forces repositioned, divisions pulled from Sicily to defend the Balkans. 250,000 troops moved based on a dead man's fake letters. The deception was working, but the Allies still didn't have confirmation. June 10, 1943. The invasion of Sicily began. Operation Husky. Our forces landed with less German resistance than expected. Fewer tanks, fewer fighters. The enemy was confused, scattered, weakened by the lie. As I've read in the after-action reports, commanders on the beach had no idea how much of their success they owed to a corpse and a forged briefcase. But the genius of Operation Mincemeat wasn't just the initial deception. The Germans kept believing the lie even after the invasion started. They thought Sicily was a feint. They kept waiting for the real attack on Greece. That psychological momentum, that false certainty, cost them weeks of strategic time they could never recover. The Sicily campaign lasted 38 days. The Allies lost fewer than 3,000 soldiers, a fraction of what was projected. Intelligence historians estimate Operation Mincemeat saved thousands of lives, all because one man understood that the most powerful weapon in war isn't steel. It's the story your enemy tells himself. After the war, William Martin was buried with full military honors in a cemetery in Glyndwr, Spain. His real name was Glyndwr Michael. He was a Welsh drifter who died of rat poison, though some accounts suggest pneumonia. Either way, he became one of the most consequential soldiers in World War II history, not through combat, through deception. What strikes me most, reading the declassified files decades later, is how fragile the entire operation was. One Spanish official who decided not to share the photographs, one German analyst who suspected the truth, one moment of doubt, and the whole thing collapses. The margin between triumph and catastrophe was measured in decisions made by people who'll never know how close they came. Operation Mincemeat proved something the generals had to relearn. Sometimes the smartest strategy isn't about moving your pieces faster or hitting harder. It's about making your opponent move their own pieces in the wrong direction. It's about understanding human nature, fear, expectation, the desire to believe what confirms what you already think. The operation remained classified for decades. Montagu himself wrote about it after retirement, but the full scope of the deception, how deeply it had influenced Hitler's thinking, didn't become clear until historians cross-referenced German military archives. We were reading the enemy's own words about how thoroughly they'd been fooled. What makes this story endure isn't just the audacity of the plan, it's that it worked at all. In an age of radar and radio intercepts and spy networks, the Allies still managed to deceive the most paranoid dictator in Europe using nothing but psychology, paperwork, and a corpse. It's a reminder that technology doesn't win wars. Understanding your enemy does. Montagu died in 1985. Glyndwr Michael's grave in Spain still stands, still receives visitors who know his story. The briefcase from the operation is preserved in the National Archives, and somewhere in the declassified records, you can still read the German intelligence reports, men at the highest levels of the Nazi state, absolutely certain they were reading the truth. They weren't. Operation Mincemeat teaches us something we forget in the noise of modern warfare. Sometimes the greatest victories are won not by the loudest explosions, but by the quietest lies, by understanding what the other side wants to believe, by playing not just with their forces, but with their fears. And that's a lesson that echoes far beyond Sicily, far beyond 1943. Subscribe for more untold stories from history's hidden corners, where the smallest deceptions changed everything.